X010 test pen, the balanced fed pigs. Note the smooth finish without any suggestion of over-fatness. They carry flesh in a smooth sweep from shoulder to ham. A pen that gives visual proof of the advantages of balanced feeding and have reached an average killing weight of 200 pounds in only 5½ months. In the X020 pen, we see a straight grain-fed lot of pigs. The difference in quality is immediately noticeable. Although within 3 pounds of the same average weight of the balanced fed pigs, this pen shows every indication of over-finish. The hogs are of the same good type as their neighbors, but have taken 28 weeks to reach killing weight. The grain has been just too fattening, and instead of fast, smooth growth, the grain has laid on an excess of fat. These slow finishers will not make the profit of the balanced fed pigs. The record summarizes the result of the 2 feeding tests. Weight figures are taken to nearest whole numbers. The X010 balanced fed pigs reached killing weight in 22 weeks on 755 pounds of balanced hog grower and hog finisher. The X020 straight grain fed pigs took 28 weeks to reach killing weight on 1,155 pounds of grain. 1,155 pounds of grain compared to 755 pounds of balanced feeds. Balanced feeding saved 400 pounds of grain per hog and 6 weeks feeding time, a dramatic illustration of scientific feeding. This pen of 5 over-fat hogs, each eating an average of 400 pounds extra grain, represent a ton of grain and 6 weeks extra feeding labor. Not a very profitable proposition. The same weight of pork on a ton less feed and 6 weeks less time. This pen will show a good profit. The next staging test will be to discover the meat yield of the 2 feeding programs. Both pens are prepared for shipment to the packing plant. The hogs are tattooed with their pen number so the carcasses can be identified later. A regulation tattoo hammer is adjusted to the proper number. Tattooing is the regular method of identifying hogs after rail grading, and every shipment received at the packing plant is tattooed on the side with a code number. And so the test pigs start off on the first lap of their journey that will lead through the packing plant to the final stage in the illustration of feed use as it affects bacon quality, the percentage meat yield. After killing, the hogs are passed through a hot water bath to loosen the hair, which is then removed in a rotating dehairing machine. After dehairing, the carcasses start on the processing line, a line where the most modern mechanical aids assist skilled butchers to keep the rail moving at a steady rate. Once on the rail, the hog starts through a series of operations that will end with a perfectly dressed carcass. Inspection is an important safeguard to the consumer, and Dominion government veterinary inspectors examine all carcasses and entrails for signs of disease that would make the meat unfit for human consumption. Lymph glands are opened to check disease signs. The line rolls on without pause, the trained team working together, each doing a single, specialized operation. After evisceration, the carcasses pass over an automatic weighing track. As the hog passes over the switch, an electric weighing machine stamps the weight on a grading ticket. The scale is under government supervision, and the weight certified correct by the Dominion Department of Agriculture. The tag is then hooked to the carcass as it passes on to the grader. All hogs processed by inspected plants are graded on the rail by Dominion government graders. Rail grading has been found to be the only accurate way of paying the producer the full amount due to him for the quality of product produced. There is no guesswork. The carcass can be seen from every angle and placed exactly in its proper class. The grader writes the grade on the ticket, which is then marked with the hog's tattoo number so that the settlement form can be made up for the shipper. The line moves on to the coolers. The feeding test hogs are on this rail and will be cut for meat yield after chilling. A test hog carcass from the X010 balanced fed pen identified by its tattoo number. The side has good length, well over the 29 inches needed for A grade. Fat is less than 1 1/2 inches at the loin, very even along the back, and less than 2 inches at the shoulder. A perfect side, well balanced and without waste fat. A carcass from the grain-fed X020 pen. This side is also of good length because it comes from a good type pig, but unbalanced feeding has left its mark. Fat is very heavy at the loin. The excess is carried down the back, ending with a heavy 3-inch layer over the shoulder, a side showing much waste fat. The carcasses are next cut up by hand to find the yield of meat. The cuts made are the ham, loin, belly, and shoulder. First, the X010 balanced fed carcass is cut up. Very little fat trimming is required with this side. Lard made from fat trimmings is much lower in price compared to lean meat, and therefore reduces the value of the side if it's in excess. That's why the lean side gets a premium. Note the even fat layer on the back. Compare it to the fat layer in the grain-fed carcass to be cut next. The cutting of the over-finished side shows plenty of evidence of excess fat. Fat must be trimmed off the side to make it into a saleable product. This fat is rendered into lard. Lard, being lower in value than lean meat, explains why the demand is for a meaty bacon-type hog instead of a fat lard hog. It also explains why less money is paid for the over-finished hog. Note the excess back fat over the loin. The fat in the belly cannot be trimmed out and makes a low-value bacon when cured. Every slice of the trimming knife takes off fat that pulls the side value down. The cuts are all weighed. First the balanced fed hog, and then the over-finished hog. The weight of fat trim tells the tale. The weights are recorded for comparison on a percentage yield basis. Total average figures for the 2 lots of 5 hogs each give final evidence of feed efficiency. The balanced fed lot yielded 4.2% more loins, 1.6% more hams, 3% more shoulders, 1.2% less bellies, and 8.1% less fat trim. Compare these meat yield figures. The balanced fed hogs produced over 8% more high-priced lean meat than the over-finished hogs. This means that the select bacon-type hog is worth more money than the over-fat hog. It's easy to understand this when we compare the 2 sides. Both sides are of good length, over 29 inches from hip bone to shoulder point. The desirable bacon side carries no excess fat, and the fat layer is even from loin to shoulder. The belly shows plenty of lean meat. The over-finished hog carries a great excess of fat from loin to shoulder and is very fat in the belly. A cross-section shows the proportion of lean meat to fat. The balanced fed side, just right. The over-finished side, much too fat. The fat trim from the over-finished hog is 8.1% greater than the balanced fed hog. A fat trim that reduces the value of the whole carcass is processed into lower valued lard. 8.1% more fat. That's expensive to put on the hog because it takes 1 1/2 times more feed to put on a pound of fat compared to a pound of lean meat. The result feeding test proved that balanced feeding profits 2 ways. It saves feed and produces a superior bacon side. Yes, those balanced fed pigs really pay their way. That's the story of bacon quality. The millions of hogs marketed in Canada are raised under many conditions. But whether they come from a 1-sow farm or the 1,000-hog ranch, the requirements for quality bacon are the same. Good type breeding stock with length, balance, and fast maturity. The feeding of a balanced ration. And the confirmation of quality by rail grading. Canadian bacon has an enviable reputation in the world. Canadian pork products go to every port on the 7 seas, from Havana and Panama to Liverpool and Calais. Whether for export or for domestic trade, Canadian pork products depend on quality. Quality that brands the name Canadian bacon best. By sea, by rail, or highway, Canadian bacon brings its reward of the superior bacon hog.